You guys ready to talk about money? That's awesome. Okay, so thank you. Nice to meet some of you I've met already. That's awesome. And Sumner, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for to the Langley Chamber of Commerce for having this opportunity to speak today. So for the purpose of this event, I'll keep everyone on mute if that's all right. I see that you're all on there. If you could put your questions in the chat box, and then Jennifer will collect them. Either if it's urgent, we'll answer them right away, or keep them for the end. So just so you guys know, if you can find your chat box, you want to find it right now and just put your first name in there. So I know everyone knows how to do that, because a few times I'm going to ask you to put some things in the chat. There you go. I see Jennifer. Hello, Bill. Yeah, there we go. Rod. Good. Chris. Awesome. All right. Let's do this. Okay. So my goal for this webinar is to support you wherever you are, highlight the areas where small business owners are struggling right now with money, invite you to lean into any areas where you feel disempowered or empowered to tackle any gaps that you might have. So this could include being inspired to get your books up to date, which is not always the case for small business owners. Create maybe a 2021 budget, come up with a debt repayment plan, measure your prices against your expenses. You know, things have really changed this year. Really have a look at your profit and make sure that you're paying yourself if you're not already a fair market wage. Those are some of the things that I have on my list. And what I want to do is ask you what you want to take away from this hour. Your time is super valuable. So if you want to just throw something in the chat, I think we'll probably cover off quite a bit of areas of finance. But if you want to just pop something there, what do you want to take away from our time together? If you could do that now, that would be great. It's like back in grade 5. Everybody stand up. And if you just want to come along for the ride and listen, that's all right too. So there you go. Awesome. Okay, so you've got those curiosity. That's great. Okay, good. So with your permission, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to send you a family budget worksheet, a 6-month cash flow planning tool, and a $500 coupon off our next Organized and Profitable Business School for Busy Entrepreneurs, just as a, for attending today. So watch for that in your email. So I want to acknowledge as well that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and that although we're talking about core business principles, everything this year has been turned upside down. There's still a threat to every small business owner and to their bank account. And so that some of this may not apply to you. So take what you want and then leave the rest. It's fine. Basically, it comes down to business's math, and there's a formula to resolve any business situation. Having said that, if anyone is really struggling, you're welcome to reach out to me after this event and we can talk about it. I think this global pandemic has taught us one thing, and that's just how important our small businesses are to our community, and that would be you. So hello, I'm Beverly Rasmussen. I owned a very successful travel agency in Langley for 7 years, which I'm very grateful for that I don't have right now. It's kind of bad to say for the other travel agents, but after selling that business in 1999, I started helping other small business owners and really have been doing that ever since. I hold a graduate certificate in executive coaching and in consulting. And however, my real experience comes from having worked with Michael Gerber at the eMeth, and where I did 3,300 one-on-one business assessments over 4 years. And it was a real eye-opening experience. I've also personally worked since then with over 350 small business owners, helping them get organized and profitable. In doing so, I've discovered some patterns over the years, and I've made notes of what works and what doesn't. And so what you're seeing here is the way that I've organized that. So being successful in business, I've come up with, there's 52 competencies that if you can check all these boxes, you can have a pretty assured to have a successful organization that can run independent of you and provide you with what you're looking for in business. So you'll notice that there's operations, there's leadership, tasks, operations, finance, team building, marketing, and sales. So there's a lot. Most business owners tend not to have an MBA. They tend to learn everything the hard way. They call it the school of hard knocks, or I often get, that was when they have a lesson, that was the most expensive MBA I've ever had, owning my business. So my idea was to streamline that and come up with a way to make it easier. And that's why these webinars are so important, learning as we go. This specific webinar will focus on your money. It includes your finances, tracking it, getting profitable, staying out of debt, paying yourself, really, again, and particularly because of the pandemic, that everyone's been impacted by that. And there's sort of been a disturbing pattern that I've noticed, and our team has sort of been picking up the pieces on this, is that a lot of the small business owners impacted by COVID have been more so because they haven't had their business finances up to date. They don't have their records up to date. Taxes are not filed. And so then they haven't been able to apply for the CEWS or the, the different loans and stuff. So that's why, as we go through this, some of these are super important. Really, you can't make financial decisions when you don't have data. So I just want to get a check to see on this list. So we'll just do a quick poll here to see whose revenue has gone up in this pandemic and who's gone down and who's gone the same. You're gonna help me out here and with some data. And Jennifer, once you've seen there's everyone's in, then you can just post the results. It's incredible. I have a couple of clients, their revenue's just gone through the roof because of, they hadn't expected that at all. And it's pretty remarkable, while others have had to close their doors. And it doesn't tell us your name, by the way. So this is anonymous. So this is for the sake of seeing who's on the group. So. And if you're not a small business owner, you can answer for your favorite small business owner, maybe. So, good. We got some responses there, Jennifer? Okay, you want to post that? Do I have to submit to? Maybe that's the problem. There you go. Is it posted?
I think one more person has to vote in order for me to share it. Otherwise, I did share my answers with you in the chat.
Okay. So there you go. If everyone wants to have fun with this, we all have to participate. So what have you got in the chat? 75% revenue has gone down and 25% has stayed the same. So we're going to do a few polls in there. So if everyone could participate, maybe that's even you as well, Jennifer. You might have to click the button. Oh, there you go. I don't know if you can see that. Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you. It's kind of fun. Okay, so let's talk on that game board. There's 10 competencies. So let's start with the first one. So all too often, busy entrepreneurs leave the bookkeeping to last, and they wonder why at the end of the year they have a money problem that they hadn't anticipated. So it could be a tax bill that was not saved for, or a realization that they were not collecting enough money from their clients, or paying for services that they weren't using or had long stopped using. Financial records, when they're fully up to date, really are the roadmap for profitability. The data collected gives us insight into how we can run our company. So I'm curious if you do the books yourself or if someone else does them. Do you want to put that in the chat? Oh, not quite. Yeah, we'll get to the poll in a second. That's okay. We'll get to Jennifer's poll. We'll do that as well. And so the other thing thinking about is which bookkeeping systems are you using? If you want to. There you go. Thank you. So most using QuickBooks? None. Okay, awesome. Interesting seeing is not a lot of people using Wave Accounting. If you have, it's become really popular with small business owners because it's a free service. They still charge when you put your bills through, but it's also a Canadian program that you can use. So really, there's no reason for any small business owner, maybe who thinks the QuickBooks and some of the other ones are more expensive, that there are really robust free options that can take you right from sending out invoices to being able to do your financials at the end of the year. So yeah, and just a quick question: are your financials, are your books up to date? You want to throw that poll up, Jennifer? Now that we got the rhythm of these. This is a good group. That's 67%. Usually those numbers are reversed the other way around. So that's awesome. So now that we've got the data collected, and you know the expression garbage in, garbage out. So we really need to make sure that data is collected, that it's accurate and it's up to date, and that it's reconciled. It's one thing to do to collect the information, but you really need to measure it against your bank statements. Incredible how much fraud I've seen over the years. Some of it intentional, some of it just bad bookkeeping, potentially. So I think of the business owners that say to me, well, why do I need to know anything about that's my bookkeeper's job, or that's my accountant's job? And I'm like, no, that's your job as a small business owner. So looking at reports, which reports do you run every month? Thinking about, I'll ask that question right now in your businesses. What reports are you running? We're not going to pull you all the way through this whole thing, but I think we have one or two more. So, So the question is that you run every month. Oh, you guys are good at participating. Thank you. Good. Yeah, see the accounts receivable. I'm not surprised on that one. That's all one. Yeah, thank you. Thinking about accounts receivable, a trend that I've noticed over probably the last 20 years. I don't know if your invoices, if you have accounts receivable, if your invoices say net 30, then I try to get clients to go, okay, well, if you were net 30, and they're like, oh, my clients have to have that. Well, move it to net 15, net 7, and eventually do on receipt. Because although I won't ask you to do this, what I have to say is repeat after me, I am not a bank. So with the travel agency, I was very defiant about not being a bank for my clients, because we only got to keep 17% of the revenue. And sometimes we do, several $100,000 in airline tickets in a month. And if I had to hold that money, I'm only keeping a bit of it. And so I just got clients on credit card payments right away. So even reconsidering being a financial, taking clients' money. I know it's a little tricky if you're in the construction industry or other places where you're forced to put the costs up front, but definitely AR is one thing to stay right on top of, which you probably already know. So what do your financial reports tell us? They help you manage your costs, watch your expenses. As I mentioned, if someone potentially is stealing from you, they help you decide whether you can see whether your costs are going up, and soon enough so that it's not too late to do something about it. If you take the time now to get comfortable with them, you'll make confident, sound business decisions based on facts and protect you from fraud. If you wait and review these statements with your accountant once a year, you lose the opportunity to improve that position. And if you don't have these statements up to date, you may not be able to get, as we mentioned, a line of credit, a business loan, a business credit card, government support. And personally, a lot of my clients have had trouble with, they're small business owners and they're scrambling to get books up to date when they want to get a personal mortgage, or even when they want to sell the business. Which it's selling the business is another way to make money owning a business. So sometimes business owners don't think that they have something to sell, but they have. So this is the number one report to keep up to date 100% of the time. If you get behind on the other ones, they'll fall into place if you do this one. Typically, this is where your money, this is where you'll find your money. This is where you want to reconcile this again with your financial statements and review it. I typically recommend by the 7th of each month. This one doesn't have a comparison on this example, but it's really good to have a comparison to last year. Where were we in sales compared to last year? And then you can, look at for anything that swings really big. Again, with the tax department, if you have a really big swing, that it automatically generates through the computers of morning. So you want to be able to manage and monitor these things. Also helps you see where you can save some money. So we don't drive a car looking out the rearview mirror. Basically, that's what you're doing if you wait till the end of the year to know how you're doing financially. So that's the second part on the game. So the third topic we're going to cover is profit. The most common question I get about profit from business owners is, why, when my books show that I have a profit, why do I not have any money? So again, that goes back to understanding your financial statements. So why is there no money in the bank? So again, as a business owner, it can be really demotivating to see that you have to pay, thousands of dollars in taxes on profit that you don't actually have. So really, it goes back to looking at your other statements. Chances are you've purchased something, you've made a capital purchase, or you've paid down debt, and you'll find that on your balance sheet. So if all this stuff sounds like, oh yeah, I know all that stuff, great. If it's a little bit like, really not sure, really lean in and really understand those statements. It's super important. Specifically for profit, I want to talk about my favorite 5 profit myths that I like to debunk. And the first one is, I don't know who started this, but it does not take 5 years to make a profit. If you're waiting for 5 years, or someone steered you in the wrong direction. Ideally, you want to set the business up to be profitable right from day one. If you're 6 or more months in and you're still not going in any direction that makes any sense, you really need to go back to your business math and have a look at the direction that you're going. Definitely 5 years in 2021 is a really, really long time. So I would say a year to 18 months, you need to be making some money. So that's myth number 1. Myth number 2 is putting all your expenses through the company so you don't have to pay taxes on profit. It's at the beginning, it sounds really fun to write off the toilet paper. Yeah, well, I'm bringing some of that home, and writing off your uncle's brother's sister's phone. You can get away with it, so you don't have to pay tax. The problem is you pay at the other end. So when you go to sell your business, I had a client, her business didn't show a profit for 10 years because she wrote everything off. Actually, it's more common, not just one, but many, but the one I'm thinking of in particular, had she even made $10,000 a year, that business would have been worth, even $50,000 to $100,000 to sell it. So someone could say, yes, this is a profitable business. A business that's not profitable is really difficult to sell. So I discourage you from writing off extra things just to reduce profit, to reduce taxes. So the third big one, which really messes up all your finances, is that if you personally are doing the work, then it doesn't cost you anything. So here's where that's a trap in a lot of different places. One, you may not be getting paid, and you're doing all this work for nothing, and eventually that will get old. And most businesses fail between 3 and 8 years, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the model didn't accommodate payment for the owner. So you can do it. If you do it, it's not free. It has to be covered. So you really need to make sure that you're paying yourself a fair market wage. And if the business can't sustain that, then again, the model needs to be changed so that it can. So you are not free unless you have a nonprofit. Then you can volunteer and donate all you want. But if you own a small business, you want to make sure that you're getting paid. The fourth myth is breaking even. Well, we're breaking even. I hear that and I just cringe. So why do you want to work that hard to not have any return? Yes, there's a lot of reasons why you want to have a business, but if you're breaking even, I don't know, it goes back to the same thing. Do you really want to be working for free? When really just a couple of tweaks with those statements that we're looking at and a few things we're going to look at will make the difference to actually be profitable. And then the fifth thing we already talked about is that if you're profitable, that you'll have money in the bank. Not necessarily true. If you're profitable, you may have earned that money and then you've spent it elsewhere. So according to one of my favorite business financial authors, Greg Crabtree, he wrote a book, Simple Numbers, Big Profit. If you're making 5% profit, your business is on life support. And 10% is kind of like a bit of a safety zone, but ideally you want to be at 15% or higher. What I like to see is design your business kind of from the bottom up. So if you start with the profit that you want to create, again, going back to your income statement, you're fully familiar with that. You're looking at that, and then you can kind of look at those different numbers and start with your desired profit at the bottom as your most important goal. And then you can make the decisions around hiring and buying and pricing and discounting and revenue sharing and whatever that is, starting with that magic number. I mentioned with your staff, if you give your staff a $1 an hour raise, which is really common, I gave everyone $1 an hour raise, or I gave everyone $2 an hour raise. Well, each dollar is equivalent to around just under $2,500 per year. So you imagine, do the math, you give 3 staff $2 an hour, and let's say, that's $15,000. And if the previous year, you only made a profit of $8,000, and you're really shooting yourself in the foot. So, but it sounds really nice. Oh, I gave everyone $1 an hour raise. Well, if you're going to do that, you have to do something at the other end to make sure that you protect that profit. So it can be nice to only to a point. You still want to protect yourself. So some of the ways with profitability, because I wanted to make sure, is that really checking your pricing. If you raise your rates by 2%, chances are no one's going to notice. You'd have to be really in a very competitive market for anyone to really notice. But that 2% is like pure profit. If nothing else changed, and it filters all the way down through. So we want to make sure that when you're putting your price together, that you're factoring all your costs, including your labor, which I mentioned already, when determining the prices. And that you check this often. And with the pandemic, I know so many clients, their expenses have gone through the roof with limited supplies, of course, PPE, all the things that they need to consider. And you've had to adjust their prices. And I think that the public, the consumers are like, okay, it's a pandemic. I know we're going to pay. There's not going to be any more $10 pizzas. Those pizzas are $15 now, the cheap ones. So because we want to keep those business, we want to stay in business. Even saying that, though, as a small business owner, it's still really good to shop around, with your suppliers to make sure that, because it's really money coming in, money going out. So if you can reduce your costs, that definitely helps. Okay, so we talked about at the beginning around revenue. Some of the revenue for you guys is up, some of it's down. What we want to do, obviously, in a business is maximize your revenue. And do we have a poll for that one, Jennifer? Have we done it already?
Sorry, we did have a cash one. If you want me to release it now.
No, that's okay. I'll leave that one. I thought we had one here for that, but thank you. She's my right-hand girl. I really appreciate it. So I think a question that I was going to ask you guys, you can put it in the chat, is what have you done to bring any new revenue in since March, for anyone that's been affected? I'm going to put that in the chat. And Bill, I'll provide a copy of the recording after, so you can look at this again. Yeah. Good. Always working for referrals. Yes. Probably even more so now. Yep. Yeah, good for you, Bill. Cutting costs there. One of the things that I've been really excited about for small business owners is how much everyone's pulling together, and how, like I said, it took a pandemic for the world to realize how important that we are to the communities. We realize that small business owners generate 70% of all the world's jobs. We're 90% of every business, and we represent 70% of all jobs globally. And so we're pretty important. And so one of the things I've noticed is the connections between the different business owners and how they're helping each other to get more business. So partnering with other people, yes. No more driving around for free. I like that. Taking advantage of the right now is a really good time to take advantage of the social support that we're getting. Partner with others in your community. Entrepreneurs are really creative. We are creators, and so this is an opportunity to really get creative. I'm going to have a little share a video with you of one of my clients who I think really just says this really well, of how this has happened for her. Sasha, you're noticing some changes in your business community with some of the other business owners. Do you want to tell our audience about that?
Working with the Victoria Distillers kind of opened us up to starting to, meet and talk, with a lot of other companies in town and small businesses. And it's actually really bonded our community. I feel like it's been a really, I've met more people in the last few weeks than I have this whole year in our business community. And I think we're all supporting each other in as many ways as you can through like gift cards or trading or support in helping with, new technology. It's been really wonderful to see. So I feel like our community is coming together really well. But it's encouraging that even more. I think it's seeing that makes me realize that, yeah, this needs to continue even after everything kind of goes back to somewhat normal.
What she's speaking to there of how everyone really bonded together in her community, and like they have their kind of their Johnson Street. So think about if you're not on a physical street, or you don't have that group, is making sure that you're reaching out and connecting to other business owners, even in this pandemic. So whether you're a Rotarian or Chambers, this is actually a great place to kind of like meet up with other people and reach out and say, how can I support you? Because like everyone's been saying, we're all in this together. So I'm going to give you, as part of the, after this event, a revenue worksheet. And so just give you some time to think about afterwards, how will you increase your sales? How will you expand your market? What innovations in service could you can, I think of Angie Quayle, who owns Well Seasoned in town, giving out yeast. She took a big bag of yeast and it was impossible to buy anywhere. And all of us at home that were trying to make bread. So she innovated in a way and kept things going. So just a thing to help you think about how else you can generate revenue. Sometimes we just get stuck in our patterns, and this pandemic has kind of thrown that all off. Okay, so the next part we're about halfway through here, on the game board is our expenses. So really, actually, what you want to do is obviously rein them in. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, and that it's really easy to buy things. One of the advice my bank manager gave me early when I started my business is, he says, okay, there's nice to haves and there's has to haves. And so when you get your hand on something and it's a nice to have, and maybe it's just efficient and quickly to grab that, then maybe, especially now, I think of going back over those 7 years, there was a lot of money I spent on nice to haves, new sweaters for the girls and purses. And I think I kind of went a little overboard, maybe in client gifts. Probably easily could have put another $1,000 a month away for my own future. Over 7 years and 12 months, you can start thinking about that. So when I look back at what I did there, we're naturally generous because we're entrepreneurs. And so let's maybe think about, especially now, putting that generosity towards ourselves if we have our own goals that we want to do it. When I look at expenses, some of the really big ones are your employees. I don't know if anyone here have employees? You can just put yes or no in the chat. Maybe that would be to get an idea. So ways of reducing employee costs is making sure that you spend strategic time on training, letting everyone know what your vision is, and so that they at least share a part of that, so you're not working, all in different directions. Having a good attitude. Lost one. I hope they're okay. Yeah. And it really around efficiencies right now, especially, if you think you're, the times of day when you're busy and the types of work that you're doing has changed from before. I was thinking of a client I worked with in 2010 after the last big yucky crash. They felt bad. They just did not want to let their employees go. Even though in Canada we have great unemployment insurance systems and stuff, they figured if they could just hold on, their business tanked, but they kept their employees. Well, by the time I got around to helping with them, they had a huge, like 6-figure Canada Revenue Agency debt that they were trying to pay off, and they nearly lost their company. So at some point, it's like put your own oxygen mask on first. So that's the employee area is probably the biggest place where you could could hurt your ability, your profit. The other place I notice is really is not just costs with suppliers, but also relationships with suppliers, because your suppliers can be the tail wagging the dog if you don't have these really good, robust relationships. I worked with a roofer, said, oh, no, I get this, I've got the best rates, I've been using them for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. We made a few phone calls and found out, no, he didn't actually, he was actually paying 22% more than new customers were paying with that same company. And was furious, but it was, you just can't just assume that that your suppliers have kind of got your back. They're running their own businesses. And so and we know that with telephone companies. And the minute you say, I'm switching, oh, by the way, we can just cut that bill by 50%. So is it worth to do that, to take time and do that strategic work? Absolutely. Especially if it's on that income statement and it's one of those core pieces that you're spending money on every month. So yeah, and obviously looking for new suppliers. And the other one right now, we've got at least one banker on the phone on the call today, is really checking your interest rates. Having a good banking relationship allows you to negotiate good terms and and manage, just, it's not unusual for small business owners to have a lot of debt, in various ways, shapes, and forms. And so again, look, if you're paying credit card interest, now's a really good time to have that conversation with your banker to get those consolidated. And there's really cool and new and innovative ways to do that. So if you've been turned down before, go back and have another conversation. And if you don't have a great business bank manager, it is totally worth it to keep shopping and looking until you find one. So, yeah. So those are some places where you can reduce your expenses. So cash, I think it wouldn't be that, think about the power of cash. I guess it just reminds me of a client who had kind of, I guess you could say, sadly, she inherited the business that she had worked for, and it had customers and it had great sales, but she had no cash and no way of getting cash. So she had a little bit to start with. And so, there would be times when she'd be sitting on $40,000 worth of orders and trying to figure out a way that she was going to pay for them so that she can get them out the door. This happens again with, I mentioned construction companies. Oh great, I got a $1 million deal, and we're gonna, at the end of the day, keep 23% of that. That's great, but I have to finance it. And so cash is thinking about, in that case, how much actual cash that you need to run your business. So that's the operation side of it, buying merchandise and selling and different things like that. But you also need cash for operations. And this is another place where small business owners don't really think about how much they need to actually run their business, especially in a pandemic. So if you could put the next poll up, Jennifer, how much cash do you think you need in the bank? Oh, interesting, Rod, you're getting paid faster in most cases. Yes, people understand. I think it's made us more kind, hasn't it? For sure. We're definitely, small business owners are getting treated way better than they were before. It used to be like, oh, you own a small business? Oh, you're wealthy. You must be rich. But the curtain's been drawn, and now everyone can see where we're at. So what do you think? How much cash do you think you need to have in the bank at all times? Yes, 80% of you said 2 months operating cash. That would be enough. That was the advice my business bank manager gave to me. I guess that would be 25 years ago now. But yeah, even just having a couple of months, it's not as onerous. Look at if it takes $10,000 a month to run your company, then having that 20 grand sitting somewhere, you could just helps you sleep at night. So if you do have an illness or some other reason why you need to step away, it's there, and you're not going to have to shut your door. So. Yes, it is. And I'm watching the chat too, so there you go. Okay. Yeah, so do you have 2 months of operating cash? Do you save some money every single month? And then thinking about what your savings plan is. I was, again, I had another client who wasn't liking his business very much anymore. Every time he made a profit, he had to pay tax, and he had to borrow money to pay the tax. And then when there was no money, he had to borrow money off his mortgage to put money into the company. And so this thing went back and forth, and his frustration with the cash. So early in the game, we in our relationship working together, we put a cash plan together, because really at the end of the day, he said, I don't have any money. Like, I personally, as a man, do not have any money, and I'm like, my hands are tied behind my back, and this business is killing me. And so I said, figured out, how much could you save? How much could you save? Or could you save $100 a week or $75 a week and just put it somewhere for yourself? Yeah, he figured he could do that, or I think it was a month. And then he said, oh, I can save that every week. Well, bit by bit, started putting money into like an off like an ING Direct, or kind of like an online banking system. And in 4 years, he managed to save $85,000. you just got a big giggle out of just having some cash. It still belonged to the business, and of course allowing your accountants and tax people to figure out how to pay it out. But over time, and he would be like, no, we're not hiring someone. That's my cash. That's not company cash. And so I think they were in their early mid 30s when they bought their house with that down payment. So cash is king. Consider what your comfort zone is around cash. And if you feel like you don't have enough, it might be just a matter of like buckling down for a few months until you actually have that cash. And once you have it in the bank, it tends to grow, honoring it in that way. So let's see what's next. Taxes. Okay, so here's a common challenge. You collect the GST, but then you need some cash, and then you spend the GST, and then you file it late, and then you pay a late filing penalty, and then you end up with this vicious circle. Super common. Like 60% of business owners have had at some point not paid their taxes on time. And so it's preventable. It just takes a plan, and think about, I always encourage, get a separate bank account for things like GST, employer remittances, PST, corporate taxes. You can put them all in one place, but that's not your money. So especially employer remittances, I've had 6 clients the CRA has frozen their bank accounts because they were 2 months late on their employer remittances. So that's a debt that you can never bankrupt. That's your debt forever because it's not your money. So again, keeping track of your tax obligations. Also, I know it's kind of like not really that sexy to keep your receipts safe. Say you take a client out for coffee, and you've got a $9.85 Starbucks receipt. Well, that 50 cents GST on there is a tax rebate, potentially, or 50% of it. I know I got the tax people in the room are going to go, nah, but a percentage of that is. So there's a lot of money lost in those little, not collecting those tax things. So every 5 cents matters. I used to say every penny matters, but I guess we'll go with 5 cents now. So currently there's loans available for different industries. There's federal funding available. There's funds available for women in business, for youth, entrepreneurs with disabilities. So really, this is a really great time. Provincial loans. It's a great time to go digging for some gold. Some of the funding is non-repay. You don't have to. It's actually in the form of a grant. So if you need money, it's out there somewhere. I think that to consider, one of the warnings I have is to protect your personal credit score. That's you can look really good, your business can look really good, but personally, if your credit score, it's one thing that you can have control over. It's fairly straightforward. Takes a few months to get back on track. I guess the second thing is ask for money when you still have some money. Don't wait until you have no money. If you know things are coming up ahead of time, to do that. Usually when you're broke, no one will give you any. Our banker will tell you that. I guess in the third thing, I wouldn't think I'd have to say this on this kind of event, but never, ever, ever borrow from the boys wearing black jackets. It's not worth it. It will cause you years of pain. It might, small business owners are desperate to hang on to. It could be ego or reputation or whatever to keep things moving, but there's never a reasonable time to have to borrow from that kind of a black market. It might be better just to talk to someone, figure out a way to wind things down or shift or shuffle ways to get that money. I guess also if someone comes along and wanting to partner with you in business, run to a lawyer's office before you accept any money from them. So thanks, Bill. I got that thrown there. Okay. So we're looking at debt. There's good debt and bad debt. I have good debt and good debt on my side. I don't know why, but that's okay. A lot of small business owners last year got a $40,000 loan. It's going to have to be paid back in a number of months. It's not immediately. So what's your plan to pay that debt back? The difference between good debt and bad debt, I guess it depends on your business. Good debt would be buying a machine that you're going to use to make money off of. It's kind of a no-brainer. Bad debt might be buying that orange sports car to deliver that product that you've always wanted to have since you were a little girl. So just having a debt repayment strategy in there. I think what happens is you just get so busy just doing it, working every day, doing your thing that Sometimes the debt just piles up and you're like, yeah, you just putting it on your card or whatever. And then next thing you know, you're potentially in trouble or not. There's lots of business owners that what's really weird is that some are like totally cool to have $3,000 in the bank. Well, others freak out if they don't have $80,000 in the bank. So it's really knowing your own comfort zone. And if you're out of your comfort zone, figure out how to, having that conversation with yourself to say what's comfortable and then work towards that. Just as hard as you work towards servicing your customers, just as hard as you work towards helping other people. It's about helping yourself. Which brings us to the last competency in the financial section is reward. What's in it for you? So ask yourself, why are you working this hard? It's really helpful to step away and ask yourself this question and to build some kind of a reward in it for you. Is it a boat? Is it your mortgage being paid off? Nice things, to have nice things to give to people that you love, or the ability to give to charity. There has to be something for you in this, or you'll actually end up resenting your business. It's like the fuel. So here we go, putting it all together. Here we go. Track your money. Use your financial data to make decisions in real time. Build great credit. Earn as much as you can. Spend as little as you need to. Save and pay for your taxes on time. Super important. I know I didn't mention it earlier. Make sure you have an up-to-date will. That's come along a number of times. And it's super, super messy when you own a business and you don't have some kind of instructions for the people that you love. And with the reward category, plan and enjoy your money. So there you go for that. I am going to open it up to questions. As I mentioned, we have been running a international business school for entrepreneurs for a number of years. We've got a class coming up on March 3rd. There's a code for you if you want to use it. Just reach out after. This isn't about sales. I do want to say, though, if you do want to do any training in British Columbia, you're in the best province for it because it's the only one that allows small business owners to actually get funding for training. So 60% of the cost of any training that you want to do in British Columbia generally is covered by the province. You just have to wait to get the money back. So whether that's upgrading your skills in the area of your business, whether, if you're a baker and you want to learn how to make souffle, you can take a course on that. Yeah, thanks, Trish. I tell everybody about the grant to make sure that you're taking, thank you, Jennifer. There's a link to the page on that. With our courses that we've been covered by it used to be the Canada BC Jobs Grant and then the Employer Training Grant since it came out, I think almost 7 years now. And so we can take a program like this that's $3,400 and get it down to around around $1,200 with the grant. So that's all about that. So I'm going to open up for questions and thank you for your participation on that. And what do you think? We have some questions on show me the money. Maybe what I'll do, because we can do this a little more informally, is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to actually then maybe ask you guys to show yourselves. There was a small group, so are we okay with doing that? And I'll do gallery view so we can all meet together. Hi, Leanna. There, I can see all you guys.
Hello.
Hey, Rod. There, we can see each other. That's awesome. So any questions, comments?
So I'm going to be the banker in the group. And I'm going to say that a lot of, Beverly, what you've said is true in regards to even what I look for when I'm helping small businesses out. Those are some of the questions that we ask as well, and especially during this COVID time. So great if you guys were looking to position yourselves to do additional borrowings to have some of those answers and documents ready.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question for you. It's not specifically about the Zoom meeting content, but more, I have a cash flow projection that I do, but I think that it might be a little bit overdone. It might be just a little bit too complicated. Do you have a basic one that you recommend for starting people off?
I do. Yeah. And that's actually interesting because there's different levels of learning. And so it's like, when we were in grade 4, we had one understanding. And then as we go through learning math, it gets more complicated. So we have everything from like a really basic up to things that are more complicated for sure. Are you looking at just, by the month or by, like, that's why the one that we have right now is like, it's a 6 month, here's your income, here's your expenses. This is what I expect. This is what I think I'm going to make. This is what I know I'm going to have to pay. And it gives you a good idea.
I do an annual one, and I have all of my expenses listed on different line items. And with that, it was helpful for me to, for example, get rid of one of my credit card terminals. Even then, 3 months later, I contacted the company, and they were still charging me the exact same amount for for 2 terminals. And I have to follow up with them again because I still think that they didn't reimburse me. So it's something where it's okay for you to think that you're spending less money, but when it's coming out of your account and you can see that in your cash flow, then it's time to make some phone calls, right?
Yeah, it's crazy how much, because business owners are busy, how much they end up spending when it's not required. Especially now, think of all the things that are automated that come out every month that you pay these subscriptions for, $10.95 a month, $14.95. All the different technologies that we need for our computers. That's great. Any questions, Rod? I think you got a group waiting for you. It's maybe waiting to use the Zoom next. So you're on mute, hon. You want to?
There we go. Hi. No, I don't have a question right now. I'm enjoying listening though, and yeah, I've got a little audience is starting to build, but that's okay. Yeah.
It's cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Sumner, is there anything you want to add? I know you had to. Maybe you had to. We can't see your smiling face, but if not, we'll sign out a bit early.
No, that was great. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. And I hope you got some useful information. And thank you so much, Beverly, for taking the time to speak to everyone today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. If there's no more questions, we'll adjourn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.